you know that word, negative feelings versus positive feelings. But all feelings are essential for our survival. And so if you look at anxiety, when people come to me and say they want to get rid of their anxiety, I say, good luck with that. Because there's millions of years of evolution behind it, first of all, across species, and a very successful system indeed of keeping the organism safe.
Yeah.
And without anxiety, you will not survive long. You will do really silly things or wonder about that brown snake. What is it? And so I'm sure somewhere in our coding, in our genetic memories, you know, that we have seen people pick up a brown snake, get bitten and die. And so we learn to be careful of certain things. But back to the point is that there are no negative or positive feelings. There are those who are pleasant, and they have a role to motivate us to survive by reinforcing certain behaviors. When I eat food and I'm saying, wow, that's really yummy, it ensures that I will eat again and not die. And later on, as we grow up, we encounter sex, and that's in order to transfer your genes to the next generation. It's also about survival. Drugs and alcohol hijack this system. They cause a lot of manipulation there in certain ways, and they make us feel like drugs are just as much more important than food and sex, and indeed many people kind of give it up. I'm not saying that in a psychological way. Biologically, we're being governed by manipulating this system to repeat and to misuse the same system that was there to reinforce motivation of certain behaviors that ensure survival. And I can say the same about anxiety. So without anxiety, I am at high risk. Too much anxiety, and I'm suffering. But this, I like to see anxiety like a little bodyguard. And so that little bodyguard tells me, be careful, there's a noise in the bush and it might be a brown snake. And so I'm being careful. But what when that particular mechanism interacts with my frontal lobe and tells me, should I open this business? Should I follow this career? What if I'm not good enough? What if nobody likes me? And you can trace down a lot of our psychological fears and actually realize that they are about survival too. Social anxiety is fitting in. And if you don't fit in, if you're not compliant and compatible, socially speaking, you're also at risk of getting kicked out of the cave and meeting the predators. Relationships are about procreation and even success, professional success. If you don't do that well, your biological brain is at risk, is telling you that you're at risk of maybe not earning enough money and therefore not having food or a shelter and therefore not surviving. The ability to regulate that depends on, I can say, what if I'm not good enough as a psychologist? I can work at the post office still, and I can make sure there's food and shelter. But in the moment, when I'm working with a client, I might get activated with anxiety. And that particular anxiety is there to keep me safe. How do we keep the balance? Is emotional regulation.